We're now looking forward to hearing from the team at Vonage, our national gold sponsor. And let me introduce our speakers, our two speakers today. Nathan Taylor, who is Vice President, and Chris Weinlich, Senior Solutions Engineer at Vonage. They're going to share their experience about AI and the contact centre, the new normal. Oh, we just normal. Welcome to Nathan and Chris.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Fiona, and thank you for the opportunity to present at this conference. Look, in the next 20, 25 minutes, what Chris and I are going to aim to do is to share with you some of the challenges that we've seen and some of the changes we've experienced in the last 6 months with regard to the contact centre, and share with you how some of our customers have had to adapt and their stories as COVID hit. Look, I also think for many people here in the audience, not many of you probably would have heard of Vonage. And look, just as a very, very brief summary, we're a cloud communication company that provides unified communications as a service, API technology, and cloud-based contact center solutions. Our APIs really are pretty interesting, and they help companies like Uber communicate with their drivers and their customers. We help people like Domino's deliver pizzas. And look, when it comes to the contact center, if you're running Salesforce to power your contact center, whether it be Service Cloud or Sales Cloud, if you're running ServiceNow or if you're running Dynamics to power your contact center, you should have a look at our solution because it's got a very strong integration into those platforms and really allows your agents to be able to stay in front of those screens and not have to worry about flicking between another solution to look up information. But look, moving on, some of the customers that we've got locally who are using that platform, people like People's Choice Credit Union, people like News Corporation Australia, Prosper, Athena Home Loans, they're the types of customers that we've got. But more importantly, I mean, what happened when COVID hit? And it's a really interesting story because, I just talked about the fact that many of you probably hadn't heard of Vonage before. Well, I hadn't heard of Vonage as well until the beginning of this year, and I actually joined the company at the end of March. And for me, what happened was I joined right when COVID hit. Everyone had to work from home. We weren't allowed into the offices. I've joined the company sitting in this home office. I've done everything so far in the home office, haven't been on a plane, haven't met customers, haven't met most of the team in real life yet, actually. But what I started to do as I joined was obviously I tried to build connections with the team remotely, but I also wanted to really understand what was happening in our customer base. And as I started talking to our customers, I wanted to understand a couple of things, what's happened to their business as a result of COVID, but more importantly, what is there that Vonage could do to help? And look, I had a couple of sad conversations. Like we have a customer, say, for example, who's in the travel sector. Their entire business out of Australia was based on international travel. And it wasn't corporate either. It was international holiday travel. And their business basically is just ground to a halt. But as I started talking to others, a few common themes started coming through. And the first one that started really coming through was, thank goodness we moved to the cloud and thank goodness we implemented your solution when we did, because if we hadn't have done that, I don't know how we would have been able to today have our agents in the office in the contact center and tomorrow be able to allow them to work from home. And it was really fortunate we did because we were able to give them a laptop and they were able to do the same job at home that they could do here in the office. But the other thing that happened was call volume started going through the roof. Things in terms of refunds, things in terms of questions, things in terms of availability. The call volumes just exponentially grew for so many of our customers. And I think, that led into another trend, which was, look, how can we understand what these calls are about? How can we get on top of the intent of the actual customer or the call that's coming in? But also, too, another interesting phenomena happened, and that was the agents were no longer in the office in the contact center. So before, where people could walk around, they could get a finger over the pulse by sort of hearing about what's happening or just having a chat to an agent, that wasn't the case anymore because everyone was working from home. So another big question that kept coming through was, how can I get more visibility into the conversations that the agents are having and how the agents coping and what are they saying and are they able to look after the customers with the answers that they need? And then I think the last thing which we can all relate to was, a massive theme that kept coming through was, I've never been on so many video calls in my life. And that's not just what I was hearing from the customers, it was what I was experiencing as well. So they were some of the main trends that sort of kept popping up in all of the conversations I was having with our customers. And, from my perspective, what I thought we'd do is we'd take you through a couple of those customer stories and then what we're able to do to try and help them. And in that regard, I'll touch on sort of the high-level challenge that they presented us with, what we're able to do to help them, and then I'll hand it over to Chris, who's actually going to spend some time showing you how these solutions can work from a demonstration perspective. So the first one that I thought was interesting, it's a major customer in the travel sector. They focus on both corporate travel and consumer holiday travel. Well-known company, you guys would know them if I could say who they were. But look, COVID hit and their phone systems basically broke. Everyone was calling in trying to figure out, how do I get a refund? How do I change my ticket? How do I look at cancelling this trip that I've got? It was just chaos for them. And they had too many calls for their agents to handle. They were trying to take voice messages. They were trying to do everything. And they had all of these calls backed up. And they said to us, look, how can we get more analytics into what these calls are about and what we need to do to help the customer on the other end? And can we say, for example, understand if it's a refund in advance, either schedule a time to call them back or schedule a way that we can get back to them through another media like email or so forth. So what we did there was we actually, at the front end of their platform, put some conversation analytics so we could interrogate what that call was about, understand what had to be done, and then look at how we could enable either some automation or some prioritization as to how that company was going to get back to helping that customer with their request and what that call was about. The next example that we've got is with regards to a supplier to Bunnings. As I think everyone can relate to, Bunnings have had some of the hugest trading days they've ever had in their history. As people had to spend more time at home, I think a few things sort of manifested. One was they were looking around going, yeah, I really need to fix that thing I've been putting off for years. And then I think the other thing, which I hope isn't the case too often, but I do think there's probably a few people who are like, you know what, the boss isn't looking, I can actually go and get this thing fixed that I've been meaning to do for ages. So Bunnings, their trade went through the roof, but what that did was it had a massive impact on their suppliers and it had a massive impact on the supply chain. And so when we were talking to some of our customers who are big suppliers to Bunnings, they were like, look, Nathan, I've got unsustainable call volumes coming in from Bunnings. We've got a web portal. We've got systems that they can see this stuff online in terms of where their order's at, where products are available, what the current price is, et cetera, but they just don't want to use it. All that happens is they pick up the phone and they're like, hey, I've got this product, this customer's here in front of me. What's the current price, or what's the availability? Or, hey, this guy's just come in, I ordered this, it's on back order. When's the shipment due to arrive? And their call volumes in that regard were just unsustainable. So we did some work with them to understand, what are those problems that have really come in that have grown that call volume exponentially? And then are there some that we could help to automate? So what we're able to do for this particular scenario was we were able to, at the front end of their call flow, put in our AI platform, which could understand what the call was about. And then what we could do is we could look at either information in their ERP system, information in their web portal, or information in their CRM to be able to pull the data with regards to stock availability or current price, or where the shipment is at for that particular order. So we'll show you how that works in a couple of moments. And then, the other one that we've seen, and whilst I've talked a lot about challenges that businesses faced, what we have seen is that COVID's also too presented some opportunities. Now, at the start, I talked about the fact that everyone's been on more video calls than ever before. And we've got some companies that work with us in the banking and the financial services sector. And one of the banking customers, they were looking at growth strategies. And one of the things that has prevented them in terms of realizing some of their growth strategies is they've always felt they need a physical bricks and mortar location to be able to expand. And what COVID has done is it's put that whole notion on its head. And basically, as a result of us all getting a lot more used to jumping on a video call to talk to someone, what this particular bank has done is they said, well, you know what, we don't actually have to have the bricks and mortar store. No one's going to them anyway with COVID. Why don't we set up some video sessions? So what we've been able to do from a secure and from a traceable perspective is we've been able to basically put in place for their agents video communications as another omni-channel solution that allows them not to just interact via web or via email or via telephone or via text message, but also too via video. And I really feel that's going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of as we move into the future. And another example in that scenario is one of the financial services companies that we work with. Their whole business culture, their whole form of differentiation is really focused around having an intimate relationship with their customer. And they threw us this challenge. They said, look, we can't make this work commercially. But say, for example, we have a customer, he's got a farm. He calls up, he wants some extension of their credit because he wants to buy a new tractor. But he doesn't just want to call up and talk to us about the loan. He wants to actually have us come to his farm. He wants to make a cup of tea for us. He wants to show us around his farm, show us the different tractors that he's looking at, what it's going to do, how it's going to improve his business. And we just can't jump in the car, drive 4.5 hours to his farm and go and do that. But we want to be able to somehow get close to having that kind of interaction with him, and we just can't do it over the phone. So once again, video helps bridge some of that gap. And in that scenario, the farmer's able to get his mobile phone, walk around the farm, show the agent on the other side of the conversation what he's talking about, be able to form that next level of relationship. And I think we've all experienced that to some degree with regard to how we've been working on video. And I've got a picture just here on this slide of a really fun meeting we had with a customer where the customer's dog came into the room, and the next thing you know, oh, have you got a golden retriever? Oh, I've got a Labrador. Oh, she's got a golden retriever. We all came together with our dogs in this meeting. And what I think that shows is a next level of intimacy that you can develop with your customers. And it's interesting, you know, I'm seeing that not just from the picture I've got here with pets, but you're starting to meet people's children, you're starting to meet other family members purely because we're on video working from home and you can't avoid it. So, look, you know, in terms of those scenarios, it's some of the trends we're seeing. Let me hand over to Chris, who's going to show you how some of that works from a solution perspective in real life.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. And yes, I agree. It's made our Friday afternoon knockoff drinks a little bit more intimate as we go into each other's homes to see what's happening there. So what I'll do now is I'll just share my screen. And now what we're taking a look at is how we're going to see these technologies in action. And one of the examples we spoke about is how one of our customers, a large travel agency, how they were able to apply this technology to allow them to adjust to the new normal, to combat the COVID challenges they were facing, and to then get back on their feet and apply some of these things into moving forward as well. So what you'll see on my screen is I'm obviously logged into Salesforce. So this example here, what we're doing is generating everything using Salesforce. What we're looking at is a dashboard here. So this dashboard is symbolizing all of the conversations that have come in or going out of our contact center here. So for this particular example, what I'll do is slowly go down and show you some of the insights which we're able to unlock using the power of Vonage inside of Salesforce. For this particular example, you can see there's been a large spike in calls. Now, this is quite obvious that for this travel agency, around the time that COVID hit, a lot of their customers were calling up to either look at things like cancellations, to do things like talk about COVID, to try and understand how they can get on the front foot for these conversations. Now, this travel agency wanted to also understand not just, okay, I can see there's been a peak in calls, but what are these calls related to? Now, using the power of Conversation Analyzer, so speech into text, what we can do is actually have the ability to unlock the insights into all the conversations that we're having with our customers. So if I scroll down, what we'll start to see is how we can power these to understand what's been said within the contact center and to really understand things that have been mentioned by our customers on the phone. Now, it's quite obvious to see here that the main words that have been mentioned, whether that's words or phrases or sentences being mentioned by our callers, are coming through and they're very loud and clear of what's being mentioned within these calls. So without me having to go through and listen to call recordings one by one or reach out to my team leaders or supervisors, I have the ability on my screen to simply understand this is what's being said throughout the conversations we're having going forward. So we can apply this to different methods as well. If I go down and look at our agents, so not just focusing on what our customers are saying, it's obviously important for our team leaders and our supervisors to understand what's been said by our agents. So not only for me to visualize this, to see what's taking place, but also if I want to, I can bring some of those to the surface as well. So just by using a few clicks, what I'll do is go through and find some examples of calls which have symbolized agents portraying exceptional levels of communication techniques. I want to go through and find also ones that are around general courtesy as well. So just by a few clicks, what you'll notice is that number is going down without me having to look at an entire haystack. I'm able to have a few clicks and understand the needle in a haystack scenarios of what's taking place, making it easy for me to do my job as a team leader and understand what customers are saying or what my agents are doing on the phone. Also some telephony data to come in there as well. So understanding the portion of the call where I've got my agent talking, what portion of the call I've got my customer talking. I can start to understand if there's been any talk over time between the customer and the agent, or if there's been any silence for these subset of calls as well. So it's quite dynamic of how I can apply this to just the calls that I'm looking at. One of the most important things to pick up and utilizing the speech to text is understanding the sentiment of the calls as well. So understanding if it's been a positive or a negative call. So for one of our customers, for this example, they understood there were a lot of calls coming through at these times. They understood that they were coming through and there was relations to coronavirus, to cancellations, to updates, those kind of things then. But they really wanted to understand what are other customers unhappy about. They wanted to understand how can we actually improve from this, and they can easily pull apart to understand, first off, how many of these calls have been negative sentiment. And let's see, there's got that small portion there, and of that portion of negative, what are the trends that they're seeing? What are customers frustrated about? So quite easily I can see here that there's a lot of things that we can get on the front foot for. So things like delays, things like long wait times, responsiveness, those are the things that this organization wanted to try and combat and understand how we can improve going forward. So what we did is we worked with this organization to understand these are your challenges you're facing. What can we do to improve from here? And one of the solutions we came up with was utilizing a virtual assistant. So with the virtual assistant, what we're able to do is actually start to cater the calls we're not able to get onto straight away. We've got a lot of calls waiting in the queue, and it's not possible for us to get to these customers in a timely manner. So the virtual assistant is able to take these calls from our customers to understand the context around them, what our customers want to talk about, and potentially provide things such as self-service to be able to get on the front foot and maybe automate updates based on those triggers as well. So what we're going to take a look at is an example of how one of our customers, Alex, is able to call in and interact with our virtual assistant. We're going to hear how the virtual assistant then provides Alex with contextual data for him specifically. And when it comes to time, what we're going to be doing is leveraging the data, not just from Salesforce, but also from different ERP systems to apply this moving forward and give Alex an update on the call. So we'll hear how Alex interacts with the virtual assistant.
Hi there. Thank you for calling Vonage Air. My name is Fly. I am the Vonage virtual assistant. How may I assist you today?
I need to change my booking.
I understand you want to change your flight. Unfortunately, we are currently experiencing a high call volume. However, I hope I can assist you. Can you please tell me your booking code?
ABC 321.
I heard ABC 321. Is it correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I can see you have a flight scheduled in the next 24 hours. Would you like someone to call you back as soon as possible to discuss your alternatives to this flight?
Oh, yes, please.
Great. One of our agents will send you a text or call you back shortly to assist you further. Thank you for calling Vonage Air.
Excellent. So what we've heard there is the ability for the virtual assistant to understand what the customer is calling about. The virtual assistant in this case scenario was able to then to understand that there's a call, there's a flight scheduled in the next 24 hours, and therefore this is quite an urgent request for this particular customer. So what the virtual assistant is able to do is actually then provide that information back through to Alex, and then also create some cases or some callbacks within the Salesforce screen as well. So what I'll do is I'll jump back into the agent view. All we have to understand here is that Vonage is able to route not just voice calls, but also non-voice interactions, which means that every touch point we have with our customers is coming back into one central routing engine. And using the Vonage omnichannel solution, we're able to start prioritizing voice or non-voice interactions over another based on the priority of how we should reach out to them. Now, for this particular example, this is a interaction which is coming through and it's very urgent. It needs to be answered within the next 24 hours, or we need to get back to this customer as soon as possible. So what we can see here is, as an agent, I'm logged in. I'm currently in the away status. But as soon as I go back to ready, the system is going to tell me what my next step should be. So as an agent, I don't have to think about, should I receive a call? Should I actually start to look at how we can get some chats or callbacks? Whatever the interactions are, we're having one centralized system to push the correct interaction across to our agent. So I've gone to the ready status, and this callback has come through to me. What we'll then start to see is how I've got all that information in front of me, and then I can understand what's been said. What I'll then do is actually just quickly refresh, because it looked like my internet had a bit of a lapse there. So what I'll do is I'll bring that case back up and understand how I can interact with my customer, Alex, there. So the case has come through to Alex. As you can see, here's that contextual information coming through of what's taken place from the virtual assistant. This is a new case being created. It's a scheduled callback, and if I want to, I can simply just click on Alex's number to call him back. But what I want to do is actually get on the front foot and assist Alex in a more mannered way. And this might be utilizing something like a video call. So I'll go across to my video call here and initiate this. Might switch across to my hotspot. Bear with me. Just the fun things of actually initiate a call with one of our customers here. So what I'll do then is I'll go across and initiate a video call. Hopefully. There's my callback request from the virtual assistant. I'll chat with an expert. And what I'm going to do here is actually have the ability to start a interaction with our customer here. So what I'll do is I'll put in a message to actually send this across. And when I initiate this, it's going to take place that our customer is going to receive an SMS to have a link to join our video conversation. I'll also be taken across into a different screen where I can actually start to have my conversation with my customer. So I'm now going into this window where I'll have the ability to interact and talk with my customer. What I'll do then is our customer then is utilizing the phone, whether that's an iOS or whether it's any interaction there, to actually log into this screen. And then I can have the two-way conversation with our customer. So there's Alex. Alex, how are you going? I can see here you've got the, you want to fly back from LA back to Sydney, and there are a few different flight options there. So what I'll do is I'm able to have an interaction and a video chat with Alex here. What I can then do is I can share my screen as well. So not just being able to talk to Alex, I can also then share my screen here and then provide Alex with some options of what we can take place here. So I can see here, Alex, this is one of our flight options here. This is a flight which is coming from LA back into Sydney on the 15th of November. Another one of our options we have here is a little bit earlier, but it is a little bit more expensive. Keep in mind, you will be flying on business class with this particular flight here. So I'm able to talk to Alex, help him through the process of selecting the right one by sharing my screen. Alex can obviously share his screen as well. And once I'm finished talking to Alex, I'll go back, thank Alex for his time, and simply just hang up that call. That's great. I've been able to help Alex as best as possible there. And I can then notice that all of the interactions I've had have come through and have been logged directly within Salesforce, providing that single source of truth for all of our interactions. So what I'll do now is I'll pass it back over to Nathan and to summarize what we've just seen here.
Thank you, Chris. And hopefully my internet connection's a bit more solid as well. That was a real call. I know that we had Chris call Alex and Alex didn't say anything. You just saw him looking at Chris. But anyway, that is what it is. Chris, if you could just tab down to the next slide for me, mate. So look, hopefully you've gained some insight into some of the challenges that our customers have faced, and I'm sure some of those challenges are challenges that you've faced as well. What we're seeing in terms of the future or the new normal from the contact center is, first of all, agents need to be able to work from anywhere. And to enable that, you really need to have some kind of cloud offering. But as I mentioned, trying to get a finger of the pulse of the contact center is different now. You can't necessarily just walk around the office or walk around the call center and talk to people. You're going to have some more intuitive analytics that you're going to be able to see so that you can see what's happening when a contact center agent is working from home and what's the interactions that they're having with their customers. Automation, it's something that if you're not already looking at or you haven't implemented, you're going to have to look at quite seriously. It's definitely not the be-all and end-all, and a lot of our customers as well really feel that they don't want to have automation in the way because they want to keep that personal experience. What we're able to do with automation is we're able to help enhance that personalized experience and route the particular call to the right agent at the right time to try and provide the best level of service for that customer interaction. And finally, look, as we're on now, video is here to stay. It will be really interesting to see what happens when the world does open up again and what will happen to the use of video and the volumes of video, but there's no question about it, it's here to stay. And I expect to see a lot more contact centers become video enabled. So look, on that front, thank you so much for your time. I hope we were able to provide some interesting insights for you. And Fiona, once again, thank you for the opportunity to present.